Good morning, Standard 5. Today's session is The Frog and the Nightingale. It's a poem written by a famous Indian novelist. His name is Vikram Seth. Now, the poem is: Once upon a time, a frog lived in Bengal bog. He sang hoarsely all day and night and refused to stop. One night, a nightingale arrived in the bog. Her beautiful song cast such a spell on all the animals of the bog that the frog grew jealous of her. The next day, he introduced himself to the nightingale as a musician and offered to train her. The innocent nightingale believed him. Thus, her training began. Now, for the explanation, there was a marshy area. A marshy area is a water filled part in which the water is dirty and has soil mixed in it. So, in that marshy area, there lived a frog, and this frog used to croak the whole day. One night, a bird called the nightingale, which has a beautiful voice, happened to come to the same area. It came to that area and she started singing in that area. In the bog or in the marshy area, you found that this nightingale began singing very beautifully. All the animals that lived there were attracted to the voice of this nightingale. When the frog noticed that the animals were attracted towards the voice of the nightingale, he became so jealous that the very next day he went and introduced himself to that bird, and he told the bird that I am a musician, and he told the bird that he would start training her to sing. The nightingale, which was very innocent, agreed, and then she decided that she would take training from the frog. Though next morning it was raining, he began her vocal training. But I can't sing in this weather. Come, my dear, we'll sing together. Just put on your scarf and sash. Kue, kua, quash, quash. So the frog and nightingale journeyed up and down the scale for 6 hours till she was shivering and her voice was hoarse and quivering. So, the very next morning, it was raining heavily, and the frog called the nightingale and asked her to come for singing training. So the nightingale refused and said, I cannot sing in this weather. It was raining heavily. So the nightingale said, I cannot sing in such a cold weather. The frog told the nightingale, put on something to keep you warm, like a scarf or a sash. So the nightingale put on those things and then they started singing. The frog and the nightingale sang for 6 long hours. They sang with tones that went high and low, up and down. For 6 hours, both of them sang, and the poor nightingale was shivering. The frog was not shivering because he is used to living in water, but the nightingale was shivering in the cold, and her voice, because of the continuous strain, became rough. Though subdued and sleep deprived, in the night her throat revived, and the sumac tree was bowed with a breathless tidal crowd. Owl of Sandwich, duck of Kent, my lord and my lady Trent, Martin Cardinal Mephisto, and the court of Monte Cristo, ladies with tiaras glittering, in the interval sat twittering, and the frog observed them glitter with a joy both sweet and bitter. The next day, the frog had invited a group of birds to listen to the voice of the nightingale. The voice of the nightingale the previous night had become rough, but then, because of the rest that she had that night, her voice gained back its strength. The next day, you would find that the whole tree, that is the sumac tree, was filled with birds that belong to the royal family. Now, the sumac tree is found in America and it has got beautiful flowers on it. This whole branch of the trees were bent because of the weight of the birds. That means to say that the whole tree was filled with birds because they wanted to listen to the beautiful voice of the nightingale. Who were the birds that were there? The owl of Sandwich, that is an owl, the duck of Kent, the mallard and milady Trent, they're all different kinds of birds. Martin cardinal is another bird, and the coot of Monte Cristo. All these birds sat on the branch of this sumac tree. Now, the poet has compared the royal family, that is, the Earl of Sandwich, the Duke of Kent, the my Lord and my Lady Trent, Martin Cardinal, Mephisto, all these people belong to the royal family. He has compared the birds to this royal family. And then he says that these ladies who had got together, the birds who had got together, had tiaras glittering. That is, they belonged to the royal family, so they had crowns on their head which was shining brightly. And you could hear each of the birds making the twittering sound. Before the nightingale began its singing, you could hear birds twittering or talking to each other. From behind the screen, the frog peeped out and looked at the birds, and he was actually filled with both joy of that was sweet and bitter. Sweet, which means that he was happy that he could gather so many people and he could collect money from all of them, or he could become richer from the nightingale singing by selling her song to these people. He was bitter because he was jealous about the voice that so many birds have come to listen to the singing of the nightingale. Every day the frog, who'd sold her songs for silver, tried to scold her, "You must practice even longer, till your voice like mine grows stronger. In the second song last night, you got nervous in mid-flight, and my dear, lay on more trills. Audiences enjoy such frills. You must make your public happier. Give them something sharper and snappier. We must aim for better billings. You still owe me 60 shillings." Day by day the nightingale grew more sorrowful and pale. Night on night her tired song zipped and thrilled and bounced along, till the birds and beasts grew tired at a voice so uninspired, and the ticket office gross crashed, and she grew more morose, for her tears were now addicted to applause quite unrestricted. So the frog started selling the song of the beautiful bird, and each time he collected the money for the singing of the nightingale, he kept on scolding her and shouting at her and telling the bird, "You have to practice more longer." And then he said, "You have to sing more stronger." And he told the nightingale, "Your voice should become like mine, beautiful and strong," he says. What do you think? Was the nightingale's song beautiful, or was the singing of the frog beautiful? But then the frog tells the bird, "Your voice should be just like mine." He even compared and complained, saying, the last time you sang the song, the second song, I think you became nervous. You were so, you didn't sound beautiful." And he told the nightingale, "You have to sing in such a way that you have to give certain ups and downs in your voices in such a way that the people who come to listen to you should be happy." He said, "You have to make the people happy by increasing your volume, decreasing your volume, increasing the tone." And then he says, by doing so, you can get more money. And he tells the bird that, "You owe me 60 shillings. That means you have to pay me 60 shillings. You have to pay me money You have to get money. Shilling is money that belongs to Britain. So, like that, he says, you have to pay me more money. And every time the nightingale, she tried her best. She tried, but then she never got praises from the frog. And this made her very sad. She became very weak. But every night she kept on practicing and practicing. And you'll find that the birds at the side of the bog that lived at the side of the marshy area, listening to the song of the nightingale, they got tired of her voice because it was her own talent, but it was not inspiring. You find that she tried to come up or be to the level of the frog, and she never met his needs. She tried her best, but then the frog was never pleased. And every time she sang, her voice became still worse. That people at the side or the audiences at the side stopped coming to listen to her, which in turn uh, the frog was upset because his collection of money became less. And then you'll find that people stopped coming to listen to her voice. But then by that time, the nightingale was so used to having an audience in such a way that every time she sang, she always wanted to hear them clapping and praising her. In, so she could not sing songs where she never had an audience. And to sing into the night all alone gave no delight. She said she did not want to sing alone by herself. She never got happiness. She always wanted an audience that could listen to her. Now the frog puffed up with rage. Brainless bird, you're on the stage. Use your wits and follow fashion. The frog kept on irritating her and called her a stupid bird. He shouted at her, he got angry with her, and he told the nightingale, you have to listen to what the audience wants, give it to them. What is the fashion now at present? Follow that and do and make the people around you happy, make the audience happy. Puff your lungs out with your passion. Trembling, terrified to fail, blind with tears, the nightingale heard him out in silence, tried, puffed up, burst a vein, and died. The nightingale, in the end, she filled her lungs with full of air and tried to sing with lot of passion. She tried to make her singing beautiful, but inside she did not have that confidence. She was shaking, she was shivering, she was frightened where she'll get again scolded by the frog. There were tears in her eyes. She was frightened in such a way that there were tears in her eyes and she could not see anything because of the tears in her eyes. And she could not even hear the people around. She couldn't even hear her voice. She just sang so loudly, and she sang in such a way trying to please the frog. But in the end, what happened was one of her veins bursted open, and that was the end of the nightingale. She died. Said the frog, I tried to teach her, but she was a stupid creature. But the frog, to tell you, had no feelings at all. She just, he just felt that it was another bird who lost her life. But then they found that the frog did not feel that he had lost a close friend. He just told that this was a stupid bird. She never listened to me. How much I tried to teach her, but she never listened to me. Anyhow, she died. He spoke very carelessly about her. Far too nervous, far too tense. He says she was very nervous. She was too tensed. Who she was tensed about? She was tensed about the frog. She had a beautiful voice, but the frog never liked it and wanted something better. So she was only tensed about the frog, but the frog felt that he was not the cause for it. Far too prone to influence. Well, poor bird, she should have known that your song must be your own. But then the poet says, poor bird, she did not know that she had a beautiful voice. She was under the influence of the frog and felt the frog was doing something good for her. She should have had more confidence in her. That's your song must be your own. The poet says, Vikram Seth says, whenever you have a talent, Make it in such a way you know you have a talent. If you are proud of the talent that you have, or if you have confidence in the talent you have, you will come out with so many variations in it. You will become better in it, he says. That's why I sing with panache, quash, 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 and the foghorn of the frog bled and rivaled through the bog. And that's why the frog says, I have my own talent, and I have my own, I improve it by myself. That's why I am today somebody great. After that, you'll find there was nobody to compete with the frog. He was totally the lord of the bog, to such an extent that he kept on and on croaking, and there was nobody to compete with him. He became the king of that bog that lived there, and the poor animal died. But now, what is the moral that Vikram Seth wants to bring us to us? He says, there are a lot of enemies around you. You may have a lot of enemies around you. You may be very talented in life. But then there'll be so many people who are selfish and who are jealous about you having such a wonderful talent. And they, because of the envy they have for your talent, they may put you down, or they may say things in such a way that you will never come up. But remember, it is only when you lack confidence in your capabilities, only then the enemy or the opposition can have full advantage of your capabilities. But if you have confidence in your on what a lot of capacity you have, you will rule the world. You will be the king of your own talent, and you will work wonders. So find out what's your talent and work towards it, and have confidence. That's all Vikram Seth, the poet, has to say in the poem. Thank you.